Bilal Muhammad has been on a roll, with wins over some of the top names in the division. The names include Sean Brady, Stephen Thompson, and Damian Maia. The only setback that Muhammad faced in his last 9 fights is a no contest against Leon Edwards due to an accidental eye poke. Dana White, the president of the UFC, recently made comments about Bilal Muhammad's future in the division, stating that they have plans for him and that he will be fighting again soon. White said, "We have plans for Bilal. Bilal's going to fight again soon, and then we're going to find out who's next in line." Bilal Muhammad was confused as to why Colby Covington was named the number 1 contender following UFC 286. Here's what Bilal had to say on his podcast, where he claimed that he deserved the title shot over Colby Covington.
Some say about who their next opponent is, and then in other situations, certainly the promotion might drive it. But it was music to my ears to see Leon talk about Colby not being the guy he thought deserved the next shot. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I'm excited about it, but he still is not saying my name. It's
I hear you.
You're a champion. If you're going to play that narrative and say, oh, well, Colby has sat out for a whole year, like, well, why does he deserve it? Then talk about the guy who's actually been fighting for this whole year. Talk about the guy who has the longest winning streak behind you. Talk about the guy that you poked in the eye and who stepped up to fight you on 2 weeks notice, 3 weeks notice, and you're the one who committed the foul. Like, don't sit there and be like, oh, man, he doesn't deserve it, but, I don't know, Masvidal deserves it, because Masvidal doesn't deserve it more than me. And you could say what you want to say is, oh, the storyline, this, and this, but and I understand the storyline, but don't sit there and lie and say, no, there's nobody else that I see deserves it, and let me just try not to say his name.
And I tell you right now, if you were in Alexander Volkanovski's division, he'd be calling your name out. All he wants is the guy who's most deserving,
Exactly. When you see guys like Volkanovski, who wants to fight the next best guy, guys like Israel Adesanya, who after the fight would call out these guys, and guys that don't have the biggest following or anything. Cannonier is the hungriest guy right now. I want to call out Cannonier. Oh, Pereira, he only has 2 fights in the UFC. That's what they think could be me. I want to fight him. Let me get Yo Romero. Let me get guys who everybody was like, man, he's calling out these guys. These guys are all hungry. It wasn't, let me get this rematch. Who's the one that's gonna make me the most money? It wasn't none of that with Adesanya. He went up to fight Jan Blachowicz. That's not a guy with a big name at all. But he wanted to test himself against the toughest competition. And that's why I don't think those type of champions get the respect that they deserve.
Here are the most interesting comments we found on this video. Nate comments and says, nobody watches Bilal's podcast. This is one of the reasons he would sell less than 10k PPVs. Bilal, nobody wants to pay to watch his boring fights, Muhammad. Cody replies and says, who hurt you? Eli follows up and says, I know you're not talking about boringness in fights. Bilal has 2 finishes, which is 2 times more than Kobe. Eli replies back and says, plus you watched. Another comment follows and says, buddy, no one even knows who you are, and the people that do probably wish they didn't. And finally, Kevin says, you're on here watching though, LOL. But UFC President Dana White has been adamant that Colby Covington will be the man to face Edward next. That generated some controversy considering Chaos hasn't fought in more than 1 year, while Muhammad knocked off 2 more tough opponents in the same time frame. On his YouTube channel, former 2-division champion Daniel Cormier stated the following: Bilal is easily the most deserving guy. There's no one that deserves it more than Bilal Muhammad. A reporter at UFC San Antonio's post-fight press conference referenced those words and asked Dana White why Muhammad wasn't under consideration for a title shot. Well, Daniel Cormier doesn't make those decisions, White replied. Nice of him, but yeah. UFC's president already knows what's next for Remember the Name, and it's not a title shot despite his 8-fight win streak.
Daniel Cormier said that Bilal Muhammad is the most warranted for a welterweight title shot. I just wanted to know what your thoughts on that was and why Bilal is not getting the next title shot.
Well, Daniel Cormier doesn't make those decisions. It's nice of him, but Bilal, we have plans for Bilal. Bilal's going to fight again soon, and then we'll find out who's next in line.
At UFC 286, White revealed that UFC was working on a Belal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov fight. While Rakhmonov is 2 spots below Muhammad in the rankings, he's widely considered to be one of the toughest fights in the 170-pound division.
I think Belal versus Rakhmonov, I was like, man, I feel bad for Belal because you're one. Once you get rid of Khamzat, right? Once you get rid of him, I mean, you're number 2. You're right there. You're waiting. So you're kind of waiting for the winner of the Colby fight with Leon.
Yeah.
But if I look at Leon, who Leon's like, hey, I kind of feel like, hey, I'm the king now. I get to kind of pick and choose who I want to fight. Careful, buddy. Careful.
I agree that he is the king of that division in the UFC right now. There's no doubt. He proved that. When you sit there and say, I get to pick, that might not be the term that you wanted to use.
Here are the most interesting comments we found on this video. Dub Techno Session says, Big John, after a cup of coffee, is a sleepy Josh Thompson nightmare, lol. Love the chemistry. Haven't listened for a while, but this was a solid EP. Colby Covington has delivered a strong response to Belal Muhammad after the UFC welterweight implied Covington is getting a title shot due to the color of his skin. Chaos surprised the majority of the MMA world when he weighed in as the backup fighter for the UFC 286 main event in London. Covington didn't end up being needed as both Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman successfully made weight, and Edwards went on to defend his welterweight title via majority decision. The 35-year-old's appearance at UFC 286 drew immediate criticism from Muhammad, who claimed that he'd been offered a fight with Covington at the event. Dana White has indicated that Chaos is next in line to challenge Edwards. That guy's racist, man, Covington declared. He was saying that the only reason this happened is because I'm white. How is that not racist? That's disgusting. That's despicable. That effing disgusting, man. I would never say that and use someone's color of their skin, but that's why they got that done. Disgusting, man. He should be literally fined and kicked out of the UFC. Covington has never been shy about speaking his mind, but he went on to say that his career would be over if he were to try and make any comments similar to Muhammad's.
Until you're beating people in the top 3 consistently like I've done, all the world champions that I've beaten in this sport, continuous world champion after world champion after world champion. You know, like no one's earned their spot at the top of the world and the top of the mountain in the ladder than me. And I put in the work, you know, so I'm not going to pick some kid up who's at the very bottom of the prelims. You know, you got to earn your way up here. And that guy's racist, man. He was saying that the only reason this happened is because I'm white. How is
I
that
was going to
not
ask you about that. What did you think about him deleting the tweet?
That's despicable. That's disgusting, man. I would never say that and use someone's color of their skin by that's why they got that done. Disgusting, man. He should be literally fined and kicked out of the UFC.
Here are the most interesting comments we found on this video. Al-Hukab says, it's a theme with the UFC that Muslim fighters need much better win streaks before they get title shots. Habib had 9 before title shot. Islam had 10, and Kalayev had 9. Bilal is now on 8. Only exception to that seems Leon. Not white nor American. I'd love to be proven wrong, to be honest, because I'm recalling these things off the top of my head. Andrew replies back and says, Tony Ferguson is white, had 12-fight win streak, never even had an undisputed title fight. Stop using race card for everything. Nigatti replies and says, it's because everyone you mentioned had a boring personality and couldn't sell PPVs. Boring fighting style mixed with a boring personality is what it is. Another comment says, Ferguson isn't white, he's Mexican. He also claimed Chandler got Dana white privilege while he was getting Dana brown privilege. And finally, Robot replies and says, Tony ain't white or Mexican, he a ninja turtle.
The guy who is the consensus toughest fight and the #1 contender. that isn't always the case. Now, Leon Edwards doesn't care about Colby Covington's wrestling. That's not why he doesn't want to fight him. He doesn't want to fight him because he hasn't competed and he doesn't believe that Colby in a meritocracy has earned a championship opportunity. Where do you stand on all of that? I know Aljamain Sterling has been intermixed in some of that at times. Where do you stand in terms of how much a champion should be able to call their shot in terms of who is the number one contender?
I mean, oh man, that's tricky because who is the number one contender? That's where it gets crazy. Like, do you have faith in who the number one contender is? Like, does Colby deserve that shot? Do we all think Colby deserves that shot? So I don't even know if it's so much Leon calling his own shots as much as it is Leon saying, I don't call the shots, but that guy definitely doesn't deserve the fight. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I don't know. I mean...
Well, Dana White came out and said it's going to be Colby, right? That he had that altercation with Masvidal and he served as the backup. And Dana White's going to control who gets the championship opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Edwards has come out and said that he's not going to sign a contract to fight Colby. So something's got to give, and usually in that tug of war, Ken Flo smirking because he knows promoter usually wins.
Here's what Brendan Schaub suggested could be the reason why Dana White is giving Colby Covington the next title shot.
I thought this was interesting. You guys tell me if you guys vibe on this. I thought it was interesting, and this isn't any hate towards Colby Covington. If I'm Colby Covington, I'm doing exactly what he's doing. Get a title shot. You want big paydays. He is a tough matchup for Leon Edwards. He's doing exactly what he should be doing. You know, good on him for getting a title shot. Would you guys turn it down? So when Dana comes out and goes, you know, Colby's next in line for the title shot, no matter what happens, and he's there for the weigh-ins. He's had how long off? Just, you know, conspiracies get me in trouble sometimes and make headlines, but does nobody think it's weird that the Masvidal drama, remember he's going to sue him for, you know, hitting him outside that Miami restaurant, all that's gone away? Do you think maybe the UFC went to him and went, hey, drop all that stuff, you come back with your title shot. Drop all that bullshit because we need to have Masvidal fight Gilbert Burns. We need to move on. This can delay everything. Drop it and we'll give you a title shot. Because do you think, if you're Colby Covington, let's put yourself in Colby's shoes, do you think you're going to make more money suing Masvidal for that incident outside the Miami restaurant? Or do you think you'll make more money fighting Leon Edwards for a world title shot?
Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.